So let's go to our exciting education component now of our today's meeting. So I'd like to introduce to you our guest speakers. They're composed of team with Sister Rech. So before I give the floor to Sue to introduce the group and their presentation, I'd like to introduce her. That she's one of our Maryknoll sisters, a long-time missioner in Tanzania. And she's presently working with the NGO Pilot Light Development, or PILIDO, which serve pastoral communities in the northeastern Tanzania. So they're going to present to us in connection with the work that they've done on human rights impact of large-scale infrastructure projects in Tanzania. I'd like to give the floor to Sue to introduce us to the organization and to your colleagues. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you very much, Marvi. I don't think I need introduction myself. Marvi said most of what I wanted to say. So I want to thank you all very much for the invitation to be with you, well, this morning, afternoon, and evening, wherever we are, for the education component of your meeting. I am very happy to introduce my colleagues here at PILIDO, who will be presenting. Grace Mtataiko is on the screen, and she is a nurse midwife. Grace has many years experience in hospital work and coordinating AIDS, different AIDS programs in the districts of Kiteto and Arusha. Grace is presently the executive director of PILIDO. Benedict Ngalama Olinangoro, he's on the screen under Toshiba there. Benedict has many years experience also in development as a consultant, researcher, and director. Benedict was a parliament member from Kiteto district for 8 years, and 4 of these years he was deputy minister of livestock and fisheries. Benedict is now serving PILIDO as advisor. And Emmanuel Indulet has 8 years experience as educator of pastoral communities and 10 years experience in education in land rights. Emmanuel was an administrator of an NGO called Cords, and he is presently serving in PILIDO's land tenure and natural resource program. Grace, Benedict, and Emmanuel are Tanzanians and they're pastoralists from Monduli, Simanjiro, and Kiteto district. So their work, because they're in the very areas where we work, their work is rooted in a deep knowledge, experience, and commitment to their pastoral communities. Just a very brief rundown of what their presentations will include. Benedict will explain, and I know this is our short period, but he'll do his level best to explain Tanzania's land policy, national human rights frameworks, and the Tanzanian government's encouragement of private investment in mega infrastructure projects. Emmanuel will then share a case in point of one of these mega projects, and that is called the East African Crude Oil Pipeline, or EACOP for short. And he'll explain both the positive and the negative impacts of this mega project on pastoral communities. And then Grace will end the presentation giving the impacts in particular villages, particular pastoral villages in Kiteto, where our organization PILIDO did a small research study. Grace will focus on effects that EACOP has on human and environmental rights of the pastoral communities. So all of their input has been informed not only by their own experience, but by the research or the small scoping study that we did in Kiteto district, which is one of the pastoral districts. And they'll give you some of the results of this study. So thank you very much. I invite Benedict to start our presentation.
Thank you very much, Sol. And good morning, friends in the US and all over the world. My brief presentation will actually cover land in Tanzania and the governance of land and the management is actually provided in the National Land Policy of 1995, which was revised in 2016.
I would like to ask everybody to please mute their microphone if you're not presenting. Thank you.
And it's not surprising that the National Land Policy in Tanzania is based on a model of land tenure, which was established by the German and British colonial administrations. The policy is trying actually to put into practice what we call the Tanzania Development Vision 2025. And all the issues around land have been organized to try to transform land into an asset that actually can facilitate the transformation of our economy from being a peasant-based economy to make Tanzania a middle-income country by the year 2025. So it's not surprising that the policy on land is built around some of the international development instruments, such as the Sustainable Development Goals, but again with the intention of trying to ensure economic growth of 8% per annum. And because of that, Tanzania has developed a number of policy instruments, legal instruments, and regulations to manage and govern land. And these have been stipulated in a number of different but complementary land acts and regulations. But land was actually divided into three main categories. There is what we call the general land, there is the village land, and there is actually protected land. And this is the land which falls under the area of conservation. But as a way of going a little further, people who would like to acquire land from the public land, normally they apply for land titles, and these are given under the Commission of Lands. Village lands fall under the governance of the Village General Assembly, and it is managed by a number of village level institutions which actually ensure that men, women, and children in Tanzania have equal rights to access to land and natural resources. So in the case of village land, a proof of ownership is called CCRO, Customary Certificate of Rights of Occupancy. This is called CCRO. And this was actually a big transformation to make sure that land ownership at the village level could be transferred to the mandate of the local people themselves. When major projects were introduced in Tanzania following the liberalization of the economy and the market forces investment was not only encouraged but promoted in a big way, and investment actually needed land, a lot of land in some cases. So there have been a lot of mega projects in Tanzania covering a number of sectors: energy sector, mining, tourism, agriculture, but also conservation. And this actually meant that a lot of land from the values and set aside for investment. And this actually created a number of problems. One, the insecurity of livelihoods of the rural people was affected because land taken from them meant that they can't use it for agriculture, pastoralism, fishing, hunting, and gathering. And this had an impact actually when it comes to human rights. In Tanzania, we have a number of instruments, policy, legal, and regulatory instruments to make sure that rights are granted. The first instrument is actually the Bill of Rights, which is a constitutional category. The Constitution in Tanzania has a detailed and well elaborate component on Bill of Rights. But there have been a number of other laws, and there have been a number of bodies created to make sure that rights are protected, promoted, and ensured that all the citizens can enjoy their rights. So there has been what we call the Tanzania Commission for Human Rights, and this is provided and established under the Constitution. The government of Tanzania back in 1917 mandated this commission to prepare, to undertake a survey, and based on the findings of that baseline survey, to prepare a national plan of action to monitor human rights, report their abuses, and make sure that all the rights holders are ensured their rights. This was actually endorsed more by various guidelines provided by the United Nations. And this did touch actually the business sector to make sure that whoever does business should actually comply with the requirements of human rights. There are areas of concern. One, even if we have very clear and elaborate policies and laws on land, quite often there is a bit of a difference between what is provided by the law and what happens on the ground. There are cases actually when the law is not followed to the letter. Another area of concern, investors can take land, but at times compensation does take too long, and at times by the time the compensation is provided, value for money has changed because of inflation. Another area, the civil society is weak. So in some cases, they are not readily available to make sure that they can promote rights of the people. I think I should stop here. My time is up. And let me stop and give room to my other colleagues to continue to finalize the sections of their presentations.
Thank you. So I think it's Emmanuel will be next.
Okay. There's a technical errors here, but I would like to start again. Thank you, Benedict, for leading us around the issue of policy. And I would like, according to the presentation from my colleague, we have just heard about the land policy, human rights and mega project in Tanzania. The following the case study of the implementation of those policies. About ECOP, which stands for East Africa Crude Oil Pipeline. That is a mega infrastructure project in Tanzania. And this study was done by our organization, Pilot Light, in 4 pastoral villages in Kiteto district. ECOP is a pipeline transporting crude oil for 1,445 kilometers, of which 296 kilometers is in Uganda, and 1,143 kilometers, around 80% of the pipeline, is in Tanzania. The pipeline is 24-inch in diameter with 30-meter wide corridor and 8 control stations along the way. ECOP is a bilateral investment mega infrastructure project between Tanzania and Uganda. It will be implemented over a period of 3 years at a cost of US $3.5 billion. The pipeline originates in Western Uganda, where China National Offshore Oil Corporation and the French multinational oil company will drill in 3 oil fields near the Murchison Fall National Park, which is based in Uganda. Total East Africa Midstream is currently the custodian of the pipeline project. The pipeline moving 216,000 barrels of crude a day for international market from Hoima in Western Uganda to Chongoleni in Tanga on the eastern coast of Tanzania. The pipeline will be barred with a higher voltage electric cable to heat the oil as it is passed through the district. Land most affected by the pipeline is land of agricultural and pastoral people. ECOP goes through 8 regions and 25 districts in Tanzania, which is the full west-eastern expanse of the country. Kiteto district, Manyara region, is among them. Kiteto district is one of the geographical area where Pilot Light, our organization, has initiated different development intervention for pastoralist and agro-pastoralist communities. 90% of the residents in Kiteto are agro-pastoralists, whose main production system and identity is livestock keeping. Pastoralists depend on rangeland for dry season grazing and other natural resources. Rangeland account for approximately 11,111 kilometers square, or over 60% of the land in Kiteto. In Kiteto, the pipeline across 7 villages, of which 4 villages, Dorkon or Bopongi, Amei and Lolera, those are villages which we did an assessment or small scoping study we did as an organization on the potential negative impact associated with implementation of this project. In the last 4 decades, land in Kiteto has been depleted by land pressure and land use conflict between various users. Although ECOP has a potential employment opportunities and significant increase of revenue, there are a major negative impact to the community. Finding of pilot light was that ECOP has a potential of increasing stress, shock on land and other natural resources already depleted in Kiteto, of endangering coping mechanism of pastoralism and risking the further to the human and environmental right of already vulnerable communities. Here we have some recommendation as an organization for mitigation of negative impact of ECOP. First, you have a legal procedure of acquiring land should be properly considered to ensure justice for affected villages. Secondly, sufficient consultation of the community prior and during implementation of the project should be highly considered. Security of land tenure and land use promoted and strengthened. Legal instrument for resources conflict resolution, promotion and protection of land tenure security and land use planning is much needed to reduce land conflict. Further, fair and just compensation for affected communities. Social security and welfare of local communities should be guaranteed with attention to traditional custom and spiritual sites. After that, I would like to end here because my time is really finished. And I would like to welcome my colleagues who will lead you around the issue of the impact of this mega infrastructure which is happening in our country. Thank you.
Grace, I think you need to unmute yourself. Grace PILIDO.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for advertisement for this Zoom. I'm going to talk about the impact of human rights of for pastoral community in Kiteto district, Manyara region in Tanzania. The first one point is loss of land and natural resources. People fear that land acquisition for ECOP mega project will destroy weight and destroy seasonal grazing area. Vegetation that prevents soil erosion and open space area will be depleted. Although not from official source, village leaders estimate that 90,760 acres of their 4 villages will be acquired by ECOP. Cutting down trees, especially medical trees for roads, control station workers' camps and pipe yard will decrease forest cover permanently. People will lose their source of traditional medicine for both human use and livestock. Olkilorit, Oremeti, Emangulai, or Bukoi are examples of medical trees in Kiteto area. There is a story told by the woman about Omunguku, a bird who predicted the rain. However, trees cut down to make way the eco will decrease forest cover, and the birds such as Omunguku will disappear. People fear they will lose their traditional ways of predicting climate change. Further negative impact that eco will potentially have on climate and environmental area. Open space land are important location for seasonal grazing and Maasai temporary homesteads called Ronjo. Maasai move their herds and temporary homes into this open space for grazing and water during dry season. For example, in Talamai, low-level open area in Kiteto, there will be an installation of main workers' camp, pipe yard, and road leading into this structure. This has potential of endangering and destroy this grazing area and homesteads. Open space are not empty. Rather, these are natural resources for the livelihoods of the pastoralists who use it. For past 40 years, Kiteto district has experienced increasing stress on all categories of land from small farmers who mitigate from other districts looking for farmland and from large agriculture schemes and investors. This has led to inconsistency and accelerate loss of land and land conflict, increases stress on land and natural resources for pastoralistic livelihoods. Another impact people reported being fearful of was pollution of soil, traditional well and water source, oil spills, chemical or salt water waste that is spilled or dumped into the natural spring or wetland will poison this important water source. Kiteto area is rich in wetlands, which are used as a source of wild fruits and foods for people, livestock, and wildlife. Environmental pollution for the mega project will potentially impact this crucial dry season, livestock, and wildlife. The pastoral communities are worried about air pollution due to significant increase in dust and trust emission. This will occur in an environmental search according to ECOP environmental social impact analysis. Currently has good air quality and few source of emotion. Social culture rights. The indigenous people care about loss of their spiritual sites, communal solidarity, and well-being. For example, Maasai women traditionally stay at home and now responsible for provisioning their family, and young men Moran who have traditional for provisioning their families, and the young men Moran who have traditional roles of communal security and social movement of livestock for water and pasture will search work on the pipeline. This pipeline employment by ECOP could change and alter the roles of youth and women in this society. The natural resource of Kiteto land, water source, trees, and forest provide sites for sacred ceremonies such as rites of passage and prayers for reconciliation. For example, women encircle the orated tree, praying for rain, or they bathe their young daughters in a natural pool of water, asking for purification and forgiveness. Amanata heredity, that is Maasai language. Young men to be circumcised seek out a traditional water source, Engipata, where they receive instruction from elders. Engipata also is Maasai language. Equal acquisition of land may constrain access of local people to their sacred site for rites of passage. Health and safety. Pastoral community worry about their security and protection of women and children. Many are concerned that our children can fall into the pipeline trench, and outsiders who come looking for work may stay longer. This could create problems for women's safety and potential increase in infections and communicable disease, and other social problems such as drug abuse, gender abuse, violence, thieves, and other forms of crime. Construction of pipeline buried with a high voltage cable in communities where there is no electricity is alarming. Potential risk of fire, mishandling of inflammable material, and pollution from crude oil burning engines cause concern for the pastoral community interviewed by PILIDO. One of the things we could take from this case study is what pastoral women of 70 years from Ame village said, "This is only land I have known in my entire life. If this taken by eco, where will I go in my old age?" In Mass, I say that I am ara moru. Tenaya nagomna manya. Kayalona ramuru. So that is the end of our case study. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Grace, Emmanuel, and Benedict, for this very well-studied, encompassing, and powerful presentation of your study. So, really, this is really a well-rounded presentation for all of us. So, we've heard a lot of the effect of this large-scale infrastructure towards the communities in this Tanzania, in the Kiteto district. So I'd like to open, I think, for questions from our participants. So if you have a question, please raise your question right now. I'd like to, let me see the gallery view, who wants to ask question. Veronica, you want? Yeah, please take the floor.
Thank you very much for an informative and very full discussion of the issues. I'm grateful for that. I was wondering, is the World Bank involved in financing any of this planned project? And if so, has their office that deals with complaints or concerns, has there been any contact with them? Because we have had the opportunity to hear a couple of times cases where World Bank funding was linked to mega projects and had extremely negative consequences. And through an internal mechanism, they were able to receive complaints. And I'm just wondering, has that happened in the case of your pipeline? Thank you.
Sue, I think I'll give to only one who would like to answer that question.
Okay, Benedict, would you like to answer that? Risha?
Let me say yes, because most of these mega projects are mostly funded by the World Bank, especially those in the energy sector. The hydroelectric projects, one in a place called Rusumo between Rwanda and Tanzania, but other energy sector projects, yes, the World Bank is involved. When it comes directly to the ECOB, it is co-funded by a number of actors, and the World Bank is partially involved. I can't really tell what sort of loans or funding went directly to the project proponents, such as Shell and the other oil companies, but they have been involved, the World Bank, African Development Bank, and in some cases, a branch of the World Bank, IFC, has been involved in contributing, part of the money as grants, but also loans. There has not been actually a direct complaint that has been sent to the World Bank itself. But let me say on behalf of my colleagues, we can try to get more information from this side, but also from the Ugandan side. And in case there is something that we need your support in terms of putting lobbying documents and advocacy documents together, we will get in touch with you with more specific and concrete issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Benedict. I would give one more question, time for one more question. And then I think we need to move into our agenda for today. So anybody else would like to? Frank, do you have something?
I'm just wondering what power the Tanzanian people there in your districts might have, maybe through their members of parliament. Can they visit them and ask the members of parliament to raise the issue of the negative impacts of the pipeline on the environment and on the health of the people? Or do the people really have no power? And when the government decides, that's it, and the people cannot really object? I don't know. Do the people have some power there, the Tanzanian people?
So anybody would like to take that question? Thank you.
Yeah, Marvi, I'll direct that again to Benedict because he was a member of parliament from Kiteto.
Yes, Frank, I would say the answer is yes. People have power, but actualizing that power is where you face a lot of challenges. Not all the information is available on time when it comes to specific issues such as compensation, destruction of the environment, pollution of air, water, and other natural resources. But people have access to their members of parliament. But again, there are certain issues which they cannot reinforce as members of parliament. This is a mega bilateral project between Uganda and Tanzania mostly. So the discussion was held at the very high level. They cannot really oppose certain components of the project, but they can actually raise issues and propose means to minimize negative impacts. That is more probable than actually opposing the whole project or certain components of the project directly. But this is the work that PILIDO would do, because we thought we could organize the 7 communities in Kiteto, try to facilitate the formation of a platform that can bring them together so that they can strategize together, raise issues together, but more importantly, pressurize their members of parliament. This is one of the things that we intend to do as a civil society organization.
Thank you so much, Benedict, for that clarification. I think we would like to end our discussion here, and I really thank, on behalf of the Mining Working Group, Sister Sue Rech and your team, PILIDO team, for this really excellent presentation. Thank you so much, and we hope to connect with you in the future, to deepen more, dig more on the case. Thank you so much.
Thank you all very much. Thank you, Marley.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.